As businesses deal with smaller budgets and for many an uncertain future, what's next? Business expert Luke Sheppard has practical tips in his brand new book, Driving Great Results, Mastering the Tools You Need to Run a Great Business. Good morning.
Good morning.
Now, you started your consulting business for businesses just before the pandemic starts, so you had to have some tips for yourself as well in changing things.
Absolutely. It's been doubly impactful and challenging to start a business during the pandemic. And the tools outlined in my book I've developed over the course of 20 years of my career. And I've really had to use those tools to get my business off the ground over the last year.
Right. So what's the biggest tip, do you think, especially for, we're talking about small businesses here. What's the biggest obstacle right now in this pandemic for small businesses?
I think when you look at the 400,000 plus businesses in Ontario, they're faced with a very dire circumstance, returning back to normal after the pandemic. Now, of course, we know vaccines are on the way and things should return to normal quite soon. But I think the number one thing that businesses can do to prepare for the surge back to normal is to get their fundamentals in place and get their fundamentals really shipshape. And that means things like making great decisions, hiring the best people and keeping them, treating them well, communicating very effectively and executing consistently. But I think the number one thing that's helped me in my business, and I would recommend for other small businesses and business owners, is to really get your decision making down to an art, down to a science.
And how do you make a decision when right now, the future is so uncertain for many, many businesses, right? It's like, am I going to make enough to be able to afford my rent for the next month or the next 3 months? What's going to happen?
I think one of the critical things is to recognize that all decisions are not created equal. And in my book, I outline 3 key differentiators to define decisions. And those 3 things are the number of people involved, the impact the decision will have on your business or your personal life, and the overall complexity. And in recognizing those 3 things, it becomes a whole lot easier to then use my priority levels to define how to approach these different kinds of decisions.
Right. When you talk about the number of people involved, is it better to have a few people or more people involved in your decision makings?
That's a great question. For the more simpler decisions that I deem low priority, I think one person is more than enough. You can use your gut if you're familiar with the situation, the impact is low. Go ahead and use your gut. You know, in many circumstances, we're told to use data, and we live in a world where data is so critical to what it is we do, but it's okay to use your gut. And then as you get up in the range of the medium priority and higher priority decisions, that's where you want to get some feedback from family, from friends, from different folks within your organization.
Right, because they may have a point of view that you've never even thought of, right? Because I find that a lot of businesses, they do well if they consider what their business is from the customer point of view.
Correct, yes. And what I've advocated in my own life has been that most good ideas are not your own. And it's so impactful to get others' ideas. Of course, as the entrepreneur or manager or business owner, ultimately you make the call. And you get to veto any decision, of course, which may be pending as well. But getting the ideas of others can really help shape and define better opportunities, better solutions, better ideas when you're executing your decision.
Right. When you were writing this book, did you start it before the pandemic?
You know, it's been percolating for years, and one of the reasons why I wrote the book was, for me, was to spend more time with my kids. I've had the chance to travel around the world and do different things, and that often brought me away from my family. So as I've been meeting with other entrepreneurs and managers around the world over the course of 20 years of my career, I've been documenting, noting what some of these tools might be, and really pulled together this comprehensive toolbook, if you'll call it that, just before the pandemic. Spent some time at the start of the pandemic writing the book, and then have been engrossed in the publishing process over the last year.
Right. So did things change a little bit because of COVID-19 within the book? Are there things that are very COVID specific in the book?
Yeah, you know, I think some of the key things around working from home and how you're portraying yourself, the communication style that folks are using, the communication medium when you want to engage with your staff through a distance application. I mean, some of those things I've had to fine tune as a result of the pandemic.
Right. And I love that you mentioned the work-life balance too, right? Because for so many people, now that they've got that taste of, you know, being home in the evening or in the morning before everybody goes off, that's really important to a lot of people now. And we forgot about that, didn't we?
Yeah, you know, and really, again, for me personally, it was a big challenge early in my career. I was a manager aspiring to rise up to the corporate ranks. I wanted to have a great career, great successes. And I often, didn't think about some of the key elements of my family and spending time with my kids. And when I missed my son's first birthday, I realized something's got to change. This is not working. I need to be more effective, more efficient in what I do, keep driving the results, but at the same time, spend the time that's so critical with my kids when they're young.
Okay, well, thanks for spending time with us this morning, Luke. We'll get a link up on our website, chch.com, on how to get your book, Driving Great Results, Mastering the Tools You Need to Run a Great Business.